on a short break. Agnes, I was just asking you, public perception, how exactly could that be improved?
Well, currently, the Finance Act, I can say, is behind us for a while. Though the approach that the government is currently taking is to enhance a collection through other statutes that provide for taxation. So you'll find that currently we have the proposed Tax Procedures Amendment Bill 2024. It is introducing new systems of tax collection. So you'll find that as Kenyans, if we are not keen now to follow so many statutes that will now come through, that will now start being amended, it will be very difficult for to ensure that the public participate in tax issues. So in as much as we looked at the Finance Act as a whole, let us remember we are still amending. Parliament is still continuing with its business. So let us be very vigilant as Kenyans. Let us participate. If you see notices on the dailies, kindly participate. If they're posted online, participate. Send your views. At least you can say you participated, even if your view was not considered.
Now, of course, eyes will be on parliamentary sessions, but now I have to get your opinion, Newton. Of course, the government is now trying to widen the revenue collection net. There are a lot of amendments in the offing. The Cabinet Secretary for Treasury did say that that would be happening, and he did mention that he would be touching on the eco levy, but he said he would not touch on contentious issues that has caused, public outrage. What are your thoughts on this?
My thinking is this. One, there is something my colleague here has mentioned about changing from the authority to the service. It should not be just contextual. Like, it should not just be, okay, Kenya Revenue Service from Kenya Revenue Authority. What should happen is Kenya Revenue should, not actually Kenya Revenue, the government of the day, the government of Kenya should inspire some form of patriotism in its Kenyan people, in its people. Because of this, one, you realize in this country, and I've said this severally, Kenyans are not against paying taxes. They are not against paying taxes. What they are against is the misuse. If you see how this money is being spent outside here, in form of projects, as a taxpayer, I cannot be willing to pay taxes. I'll wait until the last day the government comes for me to pay taxes. Not because I don't want, because this money is not being put in good use. You realize that 100% that is collected, 80% is just stolen. It is just plundered in different projects that are not worth celebrating about. And you see, these challenges come in because every politician wants to create a space that is conducive for them, so that they don't feel the pain of opposition. And in this country, yes, as much as we are going for the broad-based government, there are some things that we really need to look at it very carefully. I want to give you a case in scenario. The utilization of this revenue that is collected. You remember in the years of the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta, we saw some projects being implemented, and up to date, if I ask you the value proposition of that project, and it consumed a lot of money to the Kenyan people vis-a-vis the value that the people are getting, you will not find any. A very good example. We had almost 9 billion being put in Uhuru Gardens to renovate it, to create sheds. Someone was calling them sheds. You get me? Just to host events for celebrations. And yet Kenyans are dying hungry. So the way this money is used and utilized is a very key concern to the Kenyan people. And if you look at the exposés that are being done by my young brother Morara, you realize that as a Kenyan, you feel paying this money, because this is money from your hard-worked money. As in, you have worked hard for this, you've done business, you have paid your employees payee, you have paid your income tax, you have paid your capital gain, maybe you have sold a land somewhere, you have sold your property somewhere, and then this money you pay, painfully, it is being used in a very bad way. And I pray and believe that the Kenya Kwanza government is going to be in the front line to ensure efficient utilization of these resources.
Right.
Because the moment these resources are utilized efficiently, you realize that Kenyans will be willing to pay. It's like in business. If you pay me for a service and I serve you perfectly well, tomorrow, if I tell you, hey, I have increased the prices by 10, I will not even bother because I know the quality of job you're giving me.
Right.
So as government, I believe the government should come in place and put in structures to ensure efficient utilization of this revenue that is collected. The moment that happens, as a Kenyan, I will be my brother's keeper to ask him, hey, have you paid your taxes? Not the Kenya Revenue Authority coming to ask me, but I will be my brother's keeper. I'll be patriotic and I'll be like, hey, my brother, have you paid your taxes? If yes, fine, let's move forward. If not, you will be challenged to go and pay taxes so that we can get these services to our people and ensure that business grows.
Right, Newton. I've seen you chuckle a little bit, Julius, maybe when you were listening to what Newton was saying. And if you look at that and have in mind the context that there will be new tax propositions that are going to be tabled in front of Parliament, what are your sentiments?
I believe the government is now in a catch-22 situation because you see, services must be provided to the people, and there is no tax, there is no money to pay, for example, for salaries. So I've seen the minister saying there will be introduction of the eco levy. The eco levy currently stands at 10 shillings. For every plastic imported into the country, you pay 10 shillings per kg. There was a proposal in the Finance Bill 2024 to increase it from 10 shillings to 150 shillings per kg. In essence, this is what will happen. The price of bread will increase from, say, the current 65 shillings to around 75 shillings because of the bag. The price of cooking oil will also increase from the current 300 shillings per kg to around 320. You see, you've already affected the common mwananchi. At the same time, the government is saying this is not a dumping site. So we need to tax these plastics in order to avoid issues of environmental degradation. When you look at, for example, the issue of import tax on sugar, currently they are charging 5 shillings for every imported sugar per kg. The minister is saying they are going to increase it to about 7 shillings and 50 cents. What he's saying is this is to encourage what I would call local manufacturers, so that we have more people manufacturing sugar in the Republic, as opposed to what? As opposed to importing. But you see, this also has a direct effect on us because are we able to produce sugar that will be able to cater for all of us as a country? You see the situation we are putting the government in. Yes.
So it's a matter of, dare I say, garbage in, garbage out. What exactly does the government want and how do they want it? I'll ask you, our tax expert. Of course, these new clauses will be introduced and there will be a public, reaction that we're going to see. Do you believe that maybe we might go back to a situation where people are picketing and rioting on the streets again?
Currently, I don't believe that it will happen, but it is a risk. It is one of the tax risks that each and every country does experience, and it is also recognized in our national tax policy as a risk. So I believe currently Kenyans are actually at the stage of let us wait and see what is happening. They're actually now observing if the question that Kenyans are actually wondering, okay, the finance bill went, the act went, so what is the government currently using to collect taxes? What Kenyans don't know is that we revert to the previous Finance Act of 2023, which was almost slashed out, but it survived somehow. So there is always a way. There is no, I can say that there is no gap currently in tax administration and collection. So Kenyans should not be worried about tax administration. The problem is on collection. Because we bring in, like you said, the eco levy, but what we've already passed, is it being implemented? I would, for example, we do practice employment matters, but you find that once judgment is delivered that a claimant should be paid, the Act provides that the court can actually order that income tax be paid on their word.
Right.
But how many judgments or how many decisions do follow that requirement? So you find the laws are there, the issues on collection. Yes. So
The issues on collection.
yes.
Right. We took a stroll on social media to just see what people had to say about tax collection in the country. This is what we found.
I need to know how you guys are navigating this pathetic website. This is ecitizen.kra.go.ke, and this has got to be the worst, pathetic, crappiest, and the most frustrating website I have ever interacted with in my entire life. I mean, how do you create a website, make it mandatory for everyone to use it for a particular service, and then the website is unresponsive for most of the time? So typical of the Kenyan government. Man, I am so mad right now. I am so mad. Bro, I've been trying to create an invoice for a client for the past like 3-4 days, and I can't. Because I have to generate the invoice from a government website that doesn't freaking work. Yes, eTeams never works. eTeams never works. What a scam this is. So let me just explain. So from last year backwards, our businesses and influencers are under the category businesses. We used to invoice our clients independently. And by independently, I mean we used to use our own templates to create an invoice and then send to a client, and then the client would pay us. But now, since the beginning of the year, the government introduced a new system of invoicing where a client can't pay you unless you send them an eTeams invoice, which you have to generate using their eCitizen platform, which is crappy, pathetic. Guy, man, where do I even begin? Where do I even begin? First of all, it takes you forever to create a new invoice. It takes you forever to enter the client's details. It takes you forever to create a credit note. It takes you forever to download an invoice. It takes you forever to do anything on this freaking site. This thing has affected me massively, man. As a content creator, Mimi, I'm frustrated in ways I can't even explain. Because my bills are never paid on time. Because I never get to send an eTeams invoice. Because I can't. Because this website is crappy. And then it also ruins the relationship you have with the client. Because sometimes client anaonanga ni kama uko lazy. You're not sending your report on time and your invoice, and you want to send both of them at the same time. Sometimes you have to keep on explaining that the
Mushiri Mike is mad. Newton, you can relate.
Yes, I can relate with that gentleman 101%.
Right.
Because I missed on some sales just because eTeams is not working, and those particular corporates are telling you, if you're not sending us your eTeams, then we are not paying and we are not participating in whatever you're doing.
Right.
So that is a very serious concern, and I believe the government should take it seriously, especially the Kenya Revenue Authority, and address that particular concern. Because if they don't address that, then the young people we are trying to inspire to do business will run away from doing business.
Right.
And that is a risk, because when a young man starts business and it fails because of eTeams, whatever, then you realize that that is an employment, and
Right.
it creates some tension that is not necessary. So KRA needs really to work and implement some of those thoughts that Kenyans are raising.
All right.
And then something I just want to, I hope KRA is watching, because one, you know, I interact with a lot of my friends and they are business people. And there's this one particular lady who was very pissed and angry that KRA, because they see you are bringing in a container worth 10 million,
Right.
now they change the importation duty from 2.5 to 3.5.
Right.
You got me? Which they don't put in consideration the aspects that made you get here. Because one thing I want them to note is this. You see, the moment you bring the eco-levy tax that my friend is talking about here, you charge it on this particular bottle.
Right.
This bottle, you are importing it from China. The manufacturer in China does not have the extra costs that, as Newton Hamasi here, as I'm importing this, I don't have those costs. I have those costs, but the Chinese counterpart or
Right.
competitor doesn't have those costs. So when I bring in this product, what I will be forced to do is to transfer the costs to the end user. But now when this particular importer brings in, who is a manufacturer in China, brings the same bottle, but now it comes in cheaper, and he sells at a cheaper cost. Where do I stand as a business person?
Right.
I stand to lose. So KRA needs to look at these policies that they pass and these tax amendments that they do, so that they are pro-people, they are pro-Kenyan people. They favor the Kenyan people. You might be telling people, oh, we want to stop careless importation of things from outside. Fine. But the people who are bringing these goods here are not Kenyans. So you pay those goods in dollars. We deplete our dollar reserve. And then the Kenyan people who are trying to make a living from these businesses, they cannot make those businesses. You saw the other changes they made in regards to the motor vehicle taxes.
Right.
They changed from the CSRP to now the market value of the car that you're importing, not the way it used to happen.
Right.
And they want to implement it so hastily that by the time we realize as Kenyans, it is already low and it is already happening. And you realize that there's a lot of issues that are going to come in place because if you don't have a standardized way of doing things, if today I bring in a car worth 10 million and tomorrow it goes to 12 million, I pay extra taxes because that price has gone up. Why?
Makes no sense.
Exactly.
Now, Newton, your sentiments are very valid. I just want to get the opinion of Miri here. You had said that to some degree, this particular, site was good for the people because it makes more sense. Now, having in mind what Mike has just said, what would you say about that?
Just to add to what he said before I go to your question, sometimes KRA is not the issue because you see under Article 194, we elect representative to go and make laws.
Right.
So these laws are made by Parliament. KRA is only an administrative body. It is the executive that makes these policies. They send them to Parliament.
Right.
Then Parliament makes them laws.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's not KRA. It is our representatives whom we have elected to go and represent our voices.
Right.
No, just to make to
He
correct
said
him a
blame
little.
your MP.
Yes, no, just to correct him a little bit.
Right.
You see, these laws that people blame it on elected members of Parliament, that should not be the case. You see, when I elect my member of Parliament and goes to Parliament, he's not a finance expert.
Right. But he is making a
He
decision.
is an elected.
He or she
yes.
is making a
what
decision on your
happens?
behalf.
What happens is, these members of Parliament, sometimes they are furnished with information from these particular parastatals.
Wouldn't it be
Let's say
then
like Kenya-
logical that this particular member of Parliament, because they have the responsibility of making this decision, to do it informed and to educate themselves?
Yes, the part of them educating themselves is very important. But
Right.
what happens is, KRA structures these policies and then they recommend it to Parliament.
Right.
Then these particular proposals are very voluminous.
Right.
Just like the Constitution is very voluminous.
Right.
When
But
it gets- when
Julius
it gets-
Miri keeps reading
exactly.
it every day.
But
An MP
you
should
see
as well.
him. That is why maybe we should introduce a law that enables lawyers only to be elected to Parliament. Because you see, when these acts are done,
Right.
or when these policies are suggested from the Kenya Revenue Authority, because these particular policies, they don't originate from the streets.
Right.
They originate from Kenya Revenue Authority because of the leadership there says, no, look, I want to transform this. I want to change these things to this way. I want to improve my revenue collection so that I can be seen I'm working. And how I can do it, I've looked at it nicely, and I think like this cost can be transferred from here, or these rates can be improved here. So he recommends, and these particular suggestions are forwarded to Parliament or to the particular finance committee. Then when this finance committee goes through it,
Right.
they are told, this one is going to increase revenue. They are saying, this is going to increase revenue. Fine, let's pass it.
Right.
But where do they originate? They originate from the policy makers in Kenya Revenue Authority.
Right. Newton, before we even go and before I get the sentiments of Miri, because I see you're burning with a point there. Agnes, maybe if you could just tell us, you did tell us that we should, have our eyes open. We should be looking at all notices, considering he has said that a lot of MPs probably do not read some of the things that are tabled because they're very voluminous. What would you say about that?
By the time you decide to become an MP, no matter the walk of life that you come from, and you know very well that where you are going to, you'll need some legal expertise and advice.
Right.
Look for someone to be on your back.
Right.
In case of anything, in case of any advice,
Right.
anything, have someone who tells you this route that you are taking, no. This route that, have someone,
Right.
an accountability partner in terms
All
of
right.
legal procedure.
Maybe all members of Parliament should have a lawyer, within their teams. Julius,
Yes.
tell me, what exactly did Newton say that, heckled your feathers?
It's it's a
In a kind way,
representative
though.
democracy. Article 94,
Yes.
we elect representatives
Right.
to go and propel and represent our views.
Right.
I will not wake up today and go pass a law. I would send my MP. My MP is David Koske of Soy.
Right.
So what I'm saying is policies originate from the Exchequer.
Right.
The Exchequer is the CS, National Treasury, and Planning.
Right.
And the Cabinet. Right. That is where policies originate. They send them to Parliament. Parliament, they do it in terms of what? Now a bill, it becomes a law. Once it is a law, KRA are told, go and implement. So KRA at the end of the day, what they play is an administrative function. Yes, I'm right.
Yes,
My fellow colleague.
Yes.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it is not about KRA. It is not about KRA. It is about the executive
Right.
through the CS, the Exchequer, who sends this proposal to Parliament.
Right.
And then Parliament, they seek for our views through public participation, which we have seen is currently not working, but we hope in the long run it will work. And then for KRA now to implement.
Right.
Yes.
Now, Newton, removing our feelings from this particular topic, as a business person and as a governance expert, would you say that there are changes that could be taken by the Kenya Revenue Authority that could bring changes that are necessary?
Yes, there are very key changes that can happen. One is to make the process of collecting taxes so seamless and efficient. That is very important. Two, they need to do awareness of what they really want to achieve. Because without awareness, without me understanding as a business person, why am I paying these taxes? I will try as much as possible to evade. Then another thing is they need to widen the scope, the base for taxes, because one, this country is run by the informal sector. And that is something that we can't run away from.
Right.
So for KRA to improve its services, let it not focus mostly on just the formal side. Let them focus on the informal sector.
Right.
And they make this process so seamless and so easy for the taxpayer, for them to understand that, hey, it is very important, it is my patriotic responsibility to pay these taxes.
All right.
And all in all, it is not all about collection. It is about being true to Kenya and being a patriotic Kenyan, because paying taxes ni kujitegemea kama nchi.
Right.
And therefore, that spirit should be inculcated in a way that as a taxpayer, I feel part and parcel of it. And I feel easy to pay these taxes. And something I've really been advocating for is incentives.
Right.
You know, if KRA could come up with very sweet incentives that can encourage taxpayers to onboard and to be tax compliant,
Right.
it will be very easy.
Right.
But when it comes to a situation where you realize that some business people are more preferred than others, it brings a lot of issues.
Right, Newton. As we wrap this up, my final question to you would be, ETIM's adoption is less than 50%, a little over 20%. One sentence, how exactly could we improve these numbers?
Awareness and capacity building. That is all that KRA needs to do.
All right. Miri, as I come to you in your concluding statements, maybe if you could just tell us, the situation right now is very dire. You do say that, yes, the Kenya Revenue Authority are, responsible for revenue collection, but policies at the end of the day remain with your members of parliament. How can we make this whole situation more palatable for Kenyans?
I think the best thing would be, first of all, we need to understand the 4 cardinal principles of taxation. There is equality, there is fairness, there is it needs to progressiveness, and it needs to go in a certain direction. So in terms of fairness, we need to tax people who are the same base, the same amount. There is no need for my brother to be taxed 20,000 and myself 10,000, and yet probably we are earning at the same point.
Right.
Yes. I think once we implement the 4 cardinals of taxations, we will be good to go.
Right.
Yes.
Agnes, as a tax expert, I'm pretty sure people within your cadre are saying that the situation is absolutely dire. How can we turn this around?
First of all, just like I said previously, with any new system, there are challenges. Also, KRA should take part of the responsibility to ensure that you are following up on whether people are learning. They should be doing periodic assessments every 3 months, every 4 months. How far have we gone with the training? Have we have more people registered on the system.
Right.
And if they're not registering, where is the problem? So they should not just throw the law for us to follow,
Right.
but they should make sure that it is actually followed. Yes.
Right. When it comes to tax collection, the Kenya Revenue Authority should be proactive. Our panelists here have been discussing this topic, very, very deeply in the past hour or so, and we have to conclude it there. Do send us, again, your comments and suggestions on our socials on your screen. But for tonight, that's all we have. Have a very lovely night. My name is Hibak Said.